And welcome back to the Magic Mindset where mind meets the game. I'm your host Jimmy 10 Bucks, and I'm coming at you today with my top 5 cards for cEDH from March of the Machine. March of the Machine is finally here and I'm stoked. This is the first set in quite some time, which I'm pretty excited about, not only from a cEDH perspective, but also from a casual perspective. There's lots of flavor in this set. There's lots of cool commanders coming out of this set. And it's the first set in a while that I think we have some cool cEDH cards. I don't think it's as pushed as sets in the past have been, but I like this tame approach that they're taking at cards right now because nothing seems too OP, as in auto clue includes or anything like that. Now, this list is not exactly the best cards from March of the Machine, but they're cards that I'm most excited about trying out in some of the brews that I'm playing with and to see in today's meta. The first card on my list is Into the Fire. Into the Fire is a 3-mana sorcery and you choose a mode. First, you can deal 2 damage to each creature, planeswalker, and battle, or you can discard your hand and draw that many +1. Red going into a direction of being able to leverage card advantage in different ways, and the space they're exploring is quite interesting right now. Comparing this card, we could look at Delayed Blast Fireball, for example, for the first part of the card, and the second part of the card, Valakut's Awakening. The thing really hurting this card is that it doesn't hit 3-mana Rule of Law creatures, which are extremely relevant right now, and that it's not instant speed. However, the fact that this card doubles as a little board wipe to get rid of dorks or utility creatures, or can be used as a kind of self-windfall, I think adds a lot of utility to this card. Board wipes are becoming more and more necessary in today's meta due to the amount of stacks pieces, mana dorks, and other utility creatures that people are running right now. The fact that this card doubles as a mini board wipe or a mini wheel, I think, could see potential play in some decks. However, in my last video, we talked about Vindictive Flamestroker. That, for example, is a kind of self-wheel as well. So if people want to go away from wheeling everybody, giving everyone 21 cards versus your 7, this card could see some play. It could see some play in some stacks decks, maybe some low color red decks. But it seems like it could be that last flex spot in your 99 and you're toying between 2 cards. This card could be a good option. The next card on my list is not a meta buster by any means, but it's an interesting card nonetheless. Surge of Salvation. Surge of Salvation is a 1-mana instant that gives hexproof to all permanents you control until end of turn. Then it reads, prevent all damage that black and red sources would deal to creatures you control this turn. The most comparable card I see to this is a card such as Blacksmith's Skill, which gives hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, but only to 1 permanent. These protection spells I like. White has been getting lots of protection spells lately in cEDH that are interesting and sometimes viable. Is this the best one to come out yet? Maybe. I'm not so sure. But it's interesting nonetheless, and I wonder how relevant it is to give hexproof to all of your permanents instead of just 1. Testing will give us the answer that we need, but in the meantime, interesting decks I could see this being run in are Rule of Law decks above all, white color decks, flow color, stacks decks, and anything that needs to give protection to its permanents that isn't in blue. And the next card on my list is a pretty cool stacks piece, Phyrexian Censor. Phyrexian Censor is a 3-mana 3/3 Phyrexian wizard creature that reads, each player can't cast more than 1 non-Phyrexian card per turn, and non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped. Yet another Rule of Law effect, but this one is a bit different. This is a symmetrical stacks effect, which means your creatures also enter the battlefield tapped. So it's not going to work well in decks that want combo wins, such as relying on Kiki or similar combo lines. And in my opinion, this is great and probably its biggest strength. The gray battle of stacks deck at a table is always daunting, And if you're the Stacks deck that's running this card and can win around it, it's your answer to other Stacks decks at the table. And that's why I'm excited to see this card in play, because I don't think it's going to be used in every Stacks deck, and it definitely shouldn't. But the Stacks decks that can use it are going to be very excited to have yet another one of these effects on the battlefield. In particular, I think that Rule of Law decks that, like I said before, don't rely on Kiki-Jiki wins, Shalai and Halar, I'm looking at you. Win conless Stacks decks like Timna Kamal are looking at this, or even spicier Rule of Law brews involving planeswalkers such as Ishai or even Aminatu. Now we're getting to the really juicy cards. Next on my list is Hoarding Broodlord. Hoarding Broodlord is a 7 mana 7/6 dragon that reads Flying Convoke. Whenever it ETBs, search your library and exile a card, and as long as it remains exiled, you can cast it from exile. Also, you can cast any card from exile using Convoke. There are so many applications to this card, I don't think they're all known, but its BFF for sure right now is Saw in Half. In Rakdos, you'll Entomb Hoarding Broodlord, reanimate it somehow. On ETB, grab Saw in Half using Broodlord to cast it, get 2 more ETBs, find something like Sacrifice and Peer to the Abyss, and congrats, you just drew half of your deck. Basically, it can be a 1-card win con in some lists. In Golgari, for example, cast the card or reanimate it, grab Saw in Half, cast, and grab Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog. With a few extra creatures, this combo is extremely cheap to pull off and extremely effective. The best part about it in Golgari, in my opinion, is that Saw in Half is not a dead card as it could be in some lists, because it can also be looped with things like Eternal Witness to first generate infinite mana, and then you can start tutoring the rest of your deck by continuing the loops. The bad about this card? Well, Drannith. Drannith is probably the #1 most played white card that's also a Stacks piece, and it stops this combo in its tracks. So if you're looking to utilize this card, you're probably going to want to run quite a few targeted removal, which in my opinion is not a bad thing in today's meta, and more people should be doing anyways. Which decks is this going to be used in? Well, the list goes on. It can be used in Dargo decks, in farm lists, in Stacks lists, as they're usually creature heavy. Throwback to my last video, Timna Thrasios could probably see this, especially if you're running a Reanimator build. Reanimator builds want this. I've seen this in Tassiger lists already. This card is really, really good. It needs to be on your radar, and I'm going to grab a few copies and start playing with it. And the last card on my list is a surprise to no one, and a card I have already been testing in a few of my decks, Invasion of Ikoria. Invasion of Ikoria is a 2 mana and X-costed battle that reads, search your library and graveyard for a non-human creature with a CMC of X or less and put it onto the battlefield. The best comparison to this card is Finale of Devastation, as it can also act as a reanimate spell if needed, and, possibly more importantly, can get around Opposition Agent, as you can choose to just search your graveyard instead. The restricted nature of this card is a little bit of a hindrance, being the fact that you cannot tutor any human creature onto the battlefield, but let's be honest, you can tutor for 4 mana to the battlefield the biggest boogeyman of cEDH right now, Dockside Extortionist. And another downside of this card is the fact that it doesn't double as a win con with infinite mana or large amounts of mana as Finale of Devastation does. But wait, there's a backside? Oh, that's right. The back of this card reads as an 8/8 beater once defeated, and each non-human creature you can control can deal combat damage as though it weren't blocked. In some niche situations, it can act as a secondary win con if your list is running a high number of creatures. And where is this card going to see play? Well, any low color green deck, mono green deck, any deck really that's in green that wants to tutor creatures, namely Dockside Extortionist. I think this is now a green staple for almost every list that's running creatures, and I've already slotted it in and it's doing work in the list that I'm running. And that's my top 5 for cEDH from March the Machine, besides some obvious choices. Now, what do you guys think? Are there other niche cards that you guys are excited for from the set? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks everyone, see you next time.